Hey there, thanks for stopping by. Today's video, I want to give you a rundown of the basics of the haul. I also want to provide a small update to the giveaway that I mentioned in my last video. With that, let's just jump right into it. Okay, so just a quick update on the giveaway that I announced on the last video. Looks like I should have done a little bit more research. Apparently I can't actually grab all my subscribers and just pull names from them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab from comments, not this video, so you don't have to leave a comment in this video. I'll create a very specific video for the giveaway itself. It'll be really short, just a few minutes long, asking you to comment on the video. It'll be very clear when to do that, so be on the lookout for that in a couple weeks. But in the meantime, if you do like the content, feel free to subscribe. No obligations by any means to do that, but it does help the channel. With that, let's just now get into the haul. All right, so there's a number of things that you can do in the haul, and we're going to go through each one of them pretty quickly. First and foremost, the haul, it's basically your index of the champions that you have. Again, in this game, champions or heroes are called incarnates. So it's the index of incarnates that you have. You can see that I've got, it looks like about 10 incarnates that I've got built or forged here, ranging in various levels from 1 to 60. I played a few of them a bunch and some of them none. But you can see them there. There is, again, just like the forge screen, there is a filter that you can use. So you can filter by the quality, and the quality is going to be the star level or the ascension level of the incarnates. Level is obviously the level of the incarnates. Rarity, legendary being the best, common being the worst, and so on and so forth. Tags, affinities, and power. So great little way to sort your incarnates, especially as you start growing your haul and grabbing more incarnates along the way. This is going to be instrumental for finding those incarnates that you want. You can also sort on stats, and all of these are sorting by descending order, so they start from the highest stat of that stat to the lowest of that stat. It's not 100% accurate here. I think it's accurate for the, if you select stat 1, it's accurate for that, but if you try to add more stats, it becomes a little bit less reliable. I am sure that's going to get improved as we see more builds coming out. Again, this is the alpha, so I'm expecting that to be better in the long run. In the haul, if you select an incarnate like I'm selecting now, you will see their stats for that incarnate. Again, you can tell it's a death affinity incarnate by the border. Anything that's purple border there is death affinity. You can also see the stats here, and you can see the star level or ascension level of the incarnate. You can also apply tags. So if you've got a favorite or you want to indicate some team that works really well together, you can tag those incarnates with just various icons here and indicate which ones you want to save off. And it's really important actually, because there's, in the current state anyways, the portrait for the incarnates are very similar. This is a perfect example here. I've got a rare Titan incarnate, and it's all Titan pieces, but I've also got epic Titan incarnate that's all Titan pieces. Different affinities, different rarities, but unless you are really knowledgeable and you've memorized all the skills and how the combinations of those parts and skills add up into the rarity of the incarnate, these two champions or incarnates are going to look pretty much the same to you. So having tags are going to be very helpful to differentiate between the two. So I think that's a really great feature. You can also lock and unlock your incarnate. So if you lock it, when you go to void your incarnate or destroy them or reclaim them, basically, it won't allow you to do that. So it's a great way to protect yourself. If you really want to keep that incarnate, hit that lock button, make sure you can't get rid of it. So that's something that's really important there. So that's basically most of this left-hand side. You also have a roster button that doesn't work right now. Again, this is kind of a developer UI that'll get cleaned up. But right now, there's nothing there. I believe that's going to be used kind of for teams in the future. I'm not exactly sure, but we'll see what happens when that functionality comes in a later build. You can get to the forge from the hall by clicking this button right here. So if we go to the forge, that brings you to the forge that we talked about. So it's pretty easy to go back and forth between those. There's no forge to hall button, so you have to get out there and go back to the hall. So when you're selecting this Incarnate again, you have the stats here. You've got all the cool little features that you can use here to tag and stuff like that. But it also shows you the image of the Incarnate itself in the background of the Incarnates, or the dominant Incarnate. So this one's got the judge background, which is just a really cool. You're in kind of this floating cloud. It's probably one of my favorite backgrounds. Even though they've only got a couple out there, or a few out there, I think we're still waiting on 2 more to be developed. But right now, this is my favorite one. The Titan's a really close second, but this is my favorite one. You also have the parts that you have for this particular Incarnate. So unlike the Forge, where you're able to select parts on the right-hand side of the screen and pick and choose, these are the ones that you've locked in by forging the Incarnate. So you actually get to see what they are. So this one's got Convict, Seeker, and Subpoena. This is where you also go ahead and make a selection to try to ascend the part. So I've got these 2 little chevrons here that I can click, and these chevrons are indicating that this part can be ascended to a higher level. So if I go ahead and click there, I've got a couple ways, at least currently, to ascend that part. I can use a duplicate of that part to and consume it to ascend the part, or I can actually use these fragments and relics that are drops throughout the game and use those to actually ascend the part instead of consuming a duplicate part that I have. So when you ascend to 3-star parts, you open up an Eternal slot, and then when you ascend to a 6-star part, you open up a second Eternal slot for that part. So we'll go through Ascension in a later video, but just know that if you do have chevrons here, it means that you have the ability to ascend that part. Currently, if you are playing in the alpha, this is really important. Do not try to ascend past 6 stars. There's a known bug already in the game that if you try to ascend past 6 stars, you actually junk up your game a bit, and you can't use the Incarnates that you have. Or some of them. So just be careful of that. Don't try to ascend past 6 stars. If you don't have the chevrons there, it just means that you either don't have the relics and the fragments to ascend, or you don't have, you don't have the duplicate part that you can consume to ascend it. So it just means you can't ascend that. Okay, so on the right-hand side is the kind of the Eternals menu. Actually, not really a menu, but the list of the Eternals that you have equipped on your Incarnate. So right now I've got all of the open Eternal slots equipped with Eternals. So I do have a 6-star part here, so that's why I do have 2 Eternals equipped on that particular part. I have a 3-star and a 3-star part on the Mind and Body. So on the Mind, I only have 1 slot open, and the Body I only have 1 slot open. So you can see the red X's indicating that I can't add any more Eternals to that part because it's not of the right ascension level. You also have the EP, or the Eternal points. This 14 here is the limit you have for Eternal points. So each of your Incarnates parts have an EP associated with that. So in this case, the Mind part called Convict is contributing 3 EP to the budget. So 3 Eternal points to the budget that you can spend. The Body part called Seeker is contributing 6, and the Soul part called Subpoena is contributing 5. So if we add those up, 3 plus 6 is 9, plus 5 is 14. So those parts are giving you a budget of 14 Eternal points that you can spend. And the way you spend those is by actually, if we go ahead and click on an Eternal, you can see that each Eternal has a cost associated with it. And that cost is Eternal points. So by equipping this Seek Council, and Seek Council you can see has a cost of 2, I have now eaten 2 points into my 14-point budget. So there's a limitation on which Eternals you can actually put together, because you can't go over that certain limit. Now, there are focus gems that I'll talk about in a future video. You can kind of see here this Seek Council that I do have equipped. I've unlocked all those gem slots and I've equipped those gems. Now, there is a gem in the game that actually increases your Eternal point. I think it's by 1 right now. I'll have to actually go confirm that, but right now it's by 1. So you can actually increase your Eternal point pool or your budget by adding gems to the Eternals of those specific gems that increase your Eternal point pool. So look out for those if you have a OP combination of Eternals that you want to put together, but they cost too much and you can't fit them into that budget. There's an opportunity to add additional Eternal points through the focus gems. But again, we'll go through the focus gems in another video, probably pretty soon, so you get a feel for that system. But right now, just know that you have a budget. That's that right hand or that white number there, and then your green number is the budget that you've already eaten or used, if you will, or spent. So I have 4 Eternals equipped, and I've only spent 8 Eternal points. So I now have a budget of 6 that I can spend in this build. So if I were to go ahead and ascend these 2 parts up to 6-star, I would open those up and I'd have 6 more points that I could spend without going over that budget. So that's pretty critical. I know there's going to be a lot of theory crafting around this system, especially when we're getting into the focus gems. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to try to find great combinations for that limited budget and put out just some sick builds, I'm sure. Can't wait to talk to you all about that. But that is a very important part of this game. You can't just sit there and put all of the legendary parts that cost 6 Eternal points on your Incarnate because you have a budget or a limit that you can reach. So the last 2 kind of pieces in the hall are these 2 buttons down here. We'll first go into the green button. It's the button that sends you to the Veil. And the Veil, again, very developer UI. It's going to get cleaned up and improved and look a lot better in the coming builds. But this is where you can actually go ahead and scrap your parts or basically get rid of them, crunch them down so you get resources from that. We'll go through another video again on the Veil, but just know that if you do click that button, you go out to the Veil, and that's main menu. It's the same thing here as the Veil. You go out to the Veil and you can go ahead and crunch some parts or Incarnates or Eternals or even the focus gems. So that's pretty cool. The last button here is called Reclaim. So with every Incarnate that you have, you can actually get the parts back. Now, there's a cost to get the parts back. You have to be able to, you have to have fragments available to spend, and fragments are received by voiding Incarnates. So when you void an Incarnate, you get fragments of that Incarnate type. So when you void Incarnates that you forge, let's say you just have a whole bunch of parts that are just useless, and you want to get fragments, you'd have to go forge something, get the Incarnate, void the Incarnate, and then you get these fragments. Then you also have this dust cost associated with it as well. So you have to spend resources to reclaim the parts that you have. So if I have like a really strong 6-star part that for some reason I thought it was going to be an amazing build at 60, I got the Incarnate up to 60, it didn't mesh well with the other parts that I put on with it, but I really don't want to lose that part and I want to put it into a different build, I have the opportunity to reclaim that part. It's going to cost me probably a significant amount of resources, but I can get it back and forge another Incarnate with that specific part by reclaiming this. Now, that new Incarnate that you make is no longer going to be 60. It's going to start from scratch. You're going to be at level 1, but you will at least have the parts that you want to be put together. That way you can actually level that Incarnate. I think it's a really awesome system, especially as you're just getting into the game and starting to play around with things. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Incarnates that are just going to be reclaimed early on, because we're gonna all going to be learning about the parts and how they work together well. So just be careful doing this, because you do have to spend a bunch of resources, and you're gonna get rid of that level 60 Incarnate, or whatever level it is, right, whenever you void it. But it's going to go all the way back down to the 1 whenever you put that part in and forge it with other parts that you think might be a better combination. It also speaks to thinking about the incarnates that you want to forge early on and thinking about it often. It may not be wise to take one of your stronger parts and put it with other weaker parts, because it's going to cost resources to reclaim it back. Just remember, when you're forging your incarnates, think about the cost of reclaiming those parts if you get the combinations wrong, because that could hinder you in the later stages of the game. With that, I think that's all for the haul. The only thing I didn't really cover is that you have an XP bar here, show you your progress towards your next level, and then there's this incarnate power. Right now, again, it's just a placeholder in the game. My power is over 9,000 right now. I'm not sure if it's going to remain that way. I doubt it. It'll probably tell you what the real power is, and it probably will be a little bit different than what it is now. It'll get refined over time, but that's about it for the haul. Again, I'm going to come out with another video on ascending your parts. That way you understand that. And then I'll also come up with a video for the focus gems. I already do have a video out on focus gems, but it's a little outdated. I'll go ahead and get into more details about how to use them and what other focus gems they've added to the game. So with that, that's it for the haul. All right, so my apologies again for kind of messing up the way the giveaway is going to be run. Again, look out for that video. It'll come in probably 2-3 weeks time. Again, it'll just be very specific. It'll be very clear that it's the video that you're going to want to comment on. Again, the 7 beta keys will be up for grabs. I hope you enjoyed the haul overview. I hope it helps kind of navigate the haul. If you like the video, feel free to hit that like button. If you enjoy the content, you know what to do with the subscribe button. Obviously not obligated to do it, but it would help out. What features do you think could be added to the haul? Let me know in the comments below. Which ones do you think need a little bit more explaining or refinement? Let us know, and I'll get the feedback back to the developers. With that, I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one.